Welcome back to Logic Basics. We're in the middle of things talking about reason and being. Last time we talked about being and existence. We addressed existentialism. Remember, our goal in this series is to gain confidence and competence in the use of reason, to find meaning and to settle disputes. And as we go through the reason and being discussion, we'll see there are many disputes. And one of the questions we want to address is, can reason understand the nature of reality? Okay, so from here, we're going to be discussing a lot of metaphysical topics. Remember, metaphysics asks the question, what is real? What is eternal? And so we are going to return to the handout, and we're going to pick up on this topic of being and unity. And we're going to address the ambiguity of one. So here's a word, one. And we want to ask, what does one mean? What is the nature of one? And we'll find out that this word one is used in a number of different ways so that there is ambiguity in the use of one. But if a person were to say one, we can ask them, what do you mean by that? And we can try to get at the nature of the reality of the one that they are talking about. So let's go through this. This is an exercise in testing for meaning, and it's also an exercise in logic to see how have people used logic to discuss deep, difficult seeming topics like the nature of the dual nature of Christ, or the Trinity, right? So we can start with this. So it says there are many senses of one. Here we have 7 senses. Well, maybe more. 6. Okay, numerical unity is that something is one and the same. This is kind of like identity. It is what it is. It's one and the same. Pencil is pencil. Okay? That's maybe the easiest form of one. Now, there's also the same essence as, or the same nature as. Me and my fellow human, we're one. Me and you, we are one. You and I are one. Why? Because we have the same nature. We're one in being human. So it can be a unity of the same essence. We also talked about this in the past, non-dual or monism. Remember we talked about spiritual monism? Non-dual is a version of spiritual monism. We talked about philosophical Hinduism going back to Shankara that says all is one without any distinction. So that's another kind of one, no distinction. All is one and the same in its substance. Okay. Now we get into this topic of a unity of diversity. Unity of diversity is a very famous topic in the history of philosophy. Philosophers have tried to understand how you can have one and many at the same time. How can something be one and diverse? Okay, so we can look at different aspects of the order of life, or even non-life, because atoms are non-life, and think about diversity, unity and diversity. Think of the atom. An atom has a proton, a neutron, and an electron. So there are parts to an atom, but we call it one atom. So there's a diversity. It has a form, but it is one. Going up, you'll notice that we're kind of going up in complexity as well. Amoebas are beings that are alive, and they have atoms. So this is a little more complex. It's not just a clump of atoms. It's atoms that have life. And what is life? Aristotle talked about vegetable life, animal life, human life. He talked about the diversity of life. But here's the difference. Vegetable life is not, it doesn't have any sensations. So there is a diversity a vegetable life, but you can say it's vegetable life. It has a nature, but there's also diversity, and in each vegetable there is diversity too. Maybe you're a nutrition major, you can think about that. What is in beets that makes them so healthy? There's a diverse number of nutrients there, right? Now, animals are life, but it's a different kind of life now. It's getting more complex. Animal life is sentient life. I have some animal life in the room right now, just to let you know. Sentient life. And then humans, and think about the vast diversity of animals that there are, but we can say animal is a nature, and then we look at the different kinds of animals and the diversity that there is. Let's say dogs. There's a vast diversity in the species dogs. And then look at one dog. There's diversity in that one dog's being. So there's oneness and there's diversity. And human beings, we can say, are diverse natures. They have, they are sensing beings. They have a body, and they're rational beings. They have a mind or a soul. Now, I haven't argued for the existence of the soul, but I will. And that would be what makes humans different from animals, their rational nature. And so we have even more diversity, and we have two distinct substances, possibly, I haven't argued for this yet, in a human. We have matter and spirit. Now, in Christianity, and I'm not arguing for the truth of Christianity at this point, but I am talking about how logic has been used in the tradition of Christianity. The early Christian apologists had to figure out how to describe Christ as having a divine nature and a human nature in one person. So there's oneness. He's one person, but he has a divine nature, which is part of God, and a human nature, which participates in being a rational animal. And they worked this out logically. Now you might think, oh, that's not very logical, but I would challenge you to go read in the history of the early church fathers to see how they worked this out and how it came out in some of the first creeds and confessions of the Christian tradition. And then the Trinity is another topic that they had to work out. And the Trinity is a unity of three persons. Unity of diversity. So one God and three persons. Not three gods, three persons. And that's another kind of unity of diversity that's not a logical contradiction, because all three persons of the Trinity share the same nature. And so they are one in that. They are different persons. And those who worked out the doctrine of the Trinity talked about an economical Trinity and an ontological Trinity. So three persons have different jobs, let's say, in the work of creating, redeeming, and applying redemption in the economical Trinity. And in the ontological Trinity, they talk about the Father is a father in relation to a son. So this is a relationship, father and son. You can't be a son without a father, and you can't have a father without the son. And then the Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. So you can do some research and look into that, but this is how some early church fathers and apologists used logic to discuss this application of unity and diversity, and showed that the dual nature of Christ and the Trinity are not logically contradictory. Okay, let's go back to the different kinds of one, though. Now we have ethical unity, which has to do with the same purpose as, same purpose. Okay, so we're one in purpose. If I'm seeking some goal and you're seeking the same goal, then we're united. This is like friendship, right? Friendship is based on mutual commitment to a common good. So ethical unity, it's like you're my brother in this, or my sister in this. All right. The last is one could be part of, like this, a natural unity. Think of the universe. Uni is one, verse is diversity. So the universe is it's the unity of all the diverse aspects of the physical world. So it's one universe. In contrast to a multiverse. What's a multiverse? Many universes? Wouldn't that just be the universe? I'll let you think about that. And then there's a collective unity. This is one that is a unity of diversity, and an example is the university. The university is a place where we go to study. The goal used to be knowledge, and we have these diverse disciplines pursuing that same goal. So here are many senses of one, and if we're in a discussion and someone says, oh, one, we can say, what do you mean by one? And this is also material for us to think about in terms of being. Sometimes knowledge is just is an end in itself. It's good to just think about nature and the aspects of the universe and human nature and divine nature as an end in itself, because it's pleasing and it leads to greater understanding. So I would encourage you to think about these things. Remember, this isn't just a class. This is actually, we want to find meaning, and this is part of finding meaning. All right, I'm going to pause here. Our next venture will be to talk about being and eternal existence, and we're going to actually start doing some logic, presenting some arguments to see if we can use reason to know what is eternal. Is that possible? So I invite you to join me for that discussion next.